Hi guys, and welcome to a Hector lecture guide to the fight P7S. This is Agdistis. Before you begin this fight, you're going to want positions. First, set corners with tanks and melees in the north and healers in range in the south. I know I'm telling you to go to corners of a circle, but I hope you get what I mean. You can use these exact same corner spreads when you are spread around a platform when it's the 3-platform format. You're also going to want a set of spreads that look like this that have one of your corners going into the middle, and another type of spread that has you instead trying to all go around the outside of the platform. As long as you've got agreed upon formations for these, it prevents you having to, on the spot, try to find a position and can save you a lot of hassle. The fight begins with the normal circular platform and the boss casting Spark of Life. Every time this goes off, this is a very hard-hitting raid-wide that comes with a very spicy bleed on every single player. If you're a Sage or a White Mage, this is a great chance to get a lot of value out of Pandaemonium or Lilybell. Your tank buster for this fight comes in two different formats. Dispersed Arrow 2 targets both of the top two players in aggro for a very hard-hitting, cleaving circular AOE tank buster. Any player within that circle is going to pick up a Windburn dot, which works like the bleed, but only harder. Be aware that, as these sometimes come immediately next to a raid-wide, it's possible that your main tank will be dealing with auto attacks, the Windburn, and the bleed simultaneously, so healers take care of them. This fight has very heavy tank damage. The other possible version of this tank buster is Condensed Arrow 2. Every single time that I say there's a tank buster, which one you get is random every time you do the fight. Condensed Arrow 2 is meant to be a shared tank buster, with the main tank getting hit by it, or whoever has top aggro getting hit by it, and the off tank sharing the damage, with both getting a Windburn. However, an excellent way to make this easier on your healers is to have your main tank, or whoever has aggro at the time, invuln the Condensed. My recommendation would be invuln the first Condensed that you get, provoke, have your other tank invuln the second Condensed Arrow, and from that point onwards, you're probably going to have to share any future tank busters. Immediately afterwards, you get Blades of Attis, and you see Exaflare markers that appear in either this pattern or the mirrored version of it. The safe spot for this will always be either A or B. Look for the horizontal Exaflares going directly through the middle east-west line, and go opposite those. So in this case, the safe spot will be B. Head to the outside of this because the boss casts Immortal's Obol, and we get proximity damage from the middle of the arena, and the stage starts to split into the 3 separate platforms. Make sure you're on the edge so you take minimal damage. You lose about a GCD if you're unlucky with your timings here. And the rest of the Exaflares go off. Make sure you move into the top of your circle so that you don't get clipped by the Exaflares as they go past. As they finish off, the bridges will reform. Now, before I go any further, I want to explain a set of mechanics that you're going to see all throughout this fight related to the fruit that spawn. There are 3 different types of fruits. One that have circles, one that has lines, and one that has a little mouth on it. The circle ones will always spawn a bull or yak. I'll refer to it as a bull from now on, but I have no idea what it is. The line ones will always spawn birds, and the faces will always spawn Minotaur, new to Savage. The bull cleaves its entire circle. The bird, just like normal mode, shoots a line AoE in front of it, in the direction it's facing. The Minotaur works differently. It targets the 2 closest players to it for a cleaving attack. However, these can be walked out of so you can dodge them after you set their position. Now, in addition to that, every single one of these animals is capable of spawning with tethers attached. The bull tethers will always target all 4 of either tank healers or all 4 DPS. You just, in every capacity, go towards the bull and spread them out in a line. The idea being that they shoot out line AoEs, and they're pretty wide, so make sure you're not clipping the person next to you. Bird tethers will target the player they're tethered to. The line AoE will always aim at where they are when the cast is finished, and you need to pop knockback immunity as these come with a pretty heavy knockback. Finally, the Minotaur tethers are those proximity tethers you've probably seen before. They're red when you're too close and purple when you're far enough away. So you'll always be stretching these away. At the end, the Minotaur will target you with a conal AoE. Now that we understand what these are, let's go to the first Forbidden Fruit combo. In Forbidden Fruit 1, starts in the middle bridge between the top left and top right platform. You always get a bowl on one of the top 2 platforms, and you get 2 birds. Have your group go away from the bowl egg, and split into your light parties. The boss will cast Hematheos' Holy 3, which targets each of your healers with a stack marker. All you have to do is wait here. As long as you're not on the platform with the bowl and not in line with the bird AoEs, you're good to go. The boss will cast Bow of Attis and always target the back platform. Be aware, if you're the group stacked nearer to that back flat platform, watch out because the Bow of Attis attack actually does hit some of the front platform. So your safe spot's a little bit smaller than the group that's right on the boss. Afterwards, have your tanks go to the front and everybody else away for one of the dispersed arrow or condensed arrow tank busters. Deal with it accordingly. Have your group stack up to heal and mitigate through another spark of life, and then you want to get stacked up in the back platform. This is where things get a little tricky. You're about to get a bunch of debuffs. I find it easiest to look over at the entire party list and look at how the debuffs split up there. There are 2 types of debuffs. The red ones, when they go off, they have a spread AoE, so you need to be away from anyone else. The blue ones are instead a stack marker. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see that each of the markers comes with a 1 or 2. There's going to be 2 sets of attacks. The first set of attack will be 4 spreads in a stack, as will the second set. And this is always roll-based. So, in our current pattern of the debuffs we see, all of the tank healers have the red 1. They're going to spread first, while all the DPS stack. Whatever you do for the first set of attacks, the second set will always be the opposite. Before this goes off, the boss is going to cast Bow of Attis, and now we look at our debuffs, and the tank healers are going to spread using their corner spread positions. The DPS stay stacked in the middle, and this will go off at about the same time as the Bow of Attis attack that targets the front platforms always. Group up near to the front, and wait for the cleave marker, so you can see which of the 2 platforms in the front is safe. Move to the safe platform and now do the second part of the debuff. This time, tanks and healers stack middle, while DPS spread to their corners. You'll know the attack will go off when the counter above your head reaches 0. When all that's finished, the boss is going to cast Roots of Attis and slowly break apart the front bridge. That's not a problem. You get another tank buster, so have your tanks stay together while everybody else inches a little bit closer to that bridge behind them. And then another Forbidden Fruit combo. For this combo, I recommend pre-agreeing on spread positions that have you in groups of 4 with 1 healer in each group. This is because immediately after this, we're going to want to be on separate platforms and we're going to get healer stacks. It's simpler to minimize movement if you just have the group separate already. If you'd prefer to stick to light parties, if you'd prefer to stick to tanks, melees, healers, ranged, and swap afterwards, it does not matter. All that matters is that you only have about 4 people per platform, and to minimize movement, have 1 healer per platform. The boss will always spawn 3 bird eggs that are going to make a triangular cleaving pattern. The boss then casts multicast, and we're getting both a knockback originating from the middle back platform, as well as spread markers on every player. As soon as you see the knockback telegraph, press knockback immunity. Just ignore that, and instead sit in the safe spots that the birds are creating. You'll note that there's 4 safe spots in every single platform. 2 of the safe spots are large enough that you can squeeze in 2, but my group found it simpler to just have 1 per safe spot. Those small ones have plenty of time to adjust in, because the birds show their attack before they do it. Stay in your positions, knockback immune, and take the damage. Afterwards, do some light healing up, and then just make sure you're split into groups of 4 with 1 healer per on platforms as the boss casts Roots of Attis and breaks the final 2 bridges. This dex mechanic is really simple. Forbidden Fruit is going to spawn a bowl on every single platform. And we get targeted with Hematheos' Holy 3 again, so each healer gets a stack marker. As every platform's about to explode from the bowl's attack, we need something to save us, and sure enough, bridges form in the middle, so as soon as they do, immediately step on, because right afterwards the stacks go off, and the bowl's platforms explode. There's a Bow of Attis next. This will always target the front 2 platforms, so just be on the back platform, wait for the cleave to show you which platform is safe, and then move on to the safe front platform. No different than normal mode. There's another tank buster. I recommend whichever safe platform you're on, have the group stay and have the tanks go deal with this on the bridge. Next up is another Forbidden Fruit. This Forbidden Fruit I recommend pre-positioning on the bridge. You're going to get 3 Minotaur fruits spawning, and you're going to get one of the bowl fruits. The bowl is always going to tether to either all tank healers or all DPS. 2 of the other DPS are going to get tethers to Minotaurs, and the other 2 won't have any tethers. Here's how we resolve this. Have your tanks and healers or DPS, whoever's tethered to the bowl, go to the bowl platform and spread around it, ready for those line AOEs. Have the 2 players that have tethers to Minotaurs go to the other Minotaur platform. Make sure that you go to the back of that platform, behind the other Minotaur, and hug the wall away from the bowl as much as possible so you don't hit anybody with your AOE. Also double check that your tether is stretched so that you take minimal damage. Finally, the last 2 players need to bait the middle Minotaur. They should stand in between the other 2 Minotaurs to bait their AOEs out away from the bowl. Don't forget, you can move out of this as soon as you see the telegraph. Everything goes off, and as long as your spread is so, you're good to go. Head back to the middle of the bridge for another Blades of Attis. This is always going to be the exact same pattern. There's no mirroring or flipping about this. And it's always going to come with healer stacks and a knockback, so position yourself in your light party groups, and I recommend using the bridges to guide you as to where to position. Be right in the corner of where the 2 bridges merge. The boss cast multicast, and there comes the knockback and the stack markers. Unlike the other mechanics where I recommend knockback immunity, there's a later mechanic coming up shortly where knockback immunity is more valuable, so just ride this back to the southeast and southwest corners. And take the stack together before wrapping around up to the northeast and northwest. Make sure you hug the outside so you don't get clipped by those exaflares coming through the middle. When they've all finished, have your group go middle and your tanks to the front, ready for another arrow tank buster. Heal everyone up and get ready for another Forbidden Fruit combo. Before this one lands, I recommend roughly getting into your corners so that you've got a tank and a healer and a DPS in every corner. You're going to get 4 bird fruit spawning. Their locations can be a little bit random, but if you look at the floor pattern, they always align perfectly with one of those lovely lighter purple or lighter pink floor patterns. These are going to tether to 4 random players, and we're also going to get 4 towers spawning. The tethers will either target all DPS or all tank healers. If you have a tether, you simply stretch it directly through the middle. This helps you to aim it perfectly. You could run towards your bird, but then if you're just a little bit off to the left or the right, you change the direction of your line AoE a large amount, and it's more likely you clip someone. That's why I recommend going opposite your bird instead. Anybody without goes into the tower in their corner. Note that these towers can not be in this pattern. They could be rotated about 30 degrees clockwise, so you have to adjust. Just find the one in your quadrant of the arena. If everybody's in the correct position, don't forget for birds to pop knockback immunity, and don't forget for tower players to make sure they're in the back of their tower so they don't get hit by the line AoEs from the birds. Everything goes off as the tower is complete, and you're good. Stack up middle immediately as you're going to have just taken a bunch of damage, and there's a Spark of Life raid-wide. Afterwards, pick one of the 3 platform locations. In this case, my group's gone to B, to everybody have everyone positioned on the edge of the arena, as there's another Immortals Obol, and you want to minimize your movement and your damage. After this lands, get ready for what I consider to be the toughest mechanic of this fight, Inviolate Purgation. I'm going to talk you through 2 different ways of solving this, what I consider to be the original solution that shows the mechanics a little bit better, and then also a much simpler way of solving it. So feel free to skip ahead to that if you don't want to see how it's solved and just want to know, how do I do this? Forbidden Fruit is always going to give you 2 bird fruit and 1 bull fruit. The bull fruit is unsafe, so we're going to do our original positions for this mechanic using the term bird fruit platforms. Normally you have clockwise be the location for the stacks, and counterclockwise be the location for the beginning of the spreads. The final platform, the one with the bull, will be for the even spread locations. This will make sense once I explain the debuffs. When the boss casts Inviolate Purgation, you get a lot of debuffs. It can look overwhelming, but really this is just that debuff combo we had before, doubled. We're going to get 4 sets of attacks, each including 4 spreads and 1 stack. Once again, they're role-based, so either for every single set, tanks and healers are stacked and DPS are spread, or DPS are stacked and tank healers are spread. Now, how we deal with this, or how I approach trying to figure out what to do, you can just look at yourself and look at your debuffs. Your red debuffs tell you when to spread. So that tank has the first and the fourth spread marker. That means that they're going to be stacking on the second and third set of attacks. You can also just look at the blue debuffs and see how the entire party is going to do this. So in order, DPS are stacking first, then tank healers again, then DPS. What things we're going to get, the idea that everybody gets 2 spreads and 2 stacks overall, is set in place, but the order is totally random. They can sometimes alternate, they can sometimes be stack, stack, spread, spread. You can get, as we see here, stack, spread, spread, stack. Totally random. Either way, though, you go to position for your first mechanic. In this case, tank healers are going to the spread platform we discussed, and DPS are going to the stack platform. When stacking, you want to stack all the way out at the edge, and when spreading, because we're dodging the bird's attack as well, you want to do that fan spread I showed previously. For the middle player, to be in the correct spot, you want to be just behind the middle of the hitbox of that bird. The countdown happens, and the spreads and the stacks go off. Now, here's where things get extra tricky. See those green orbs that are left behind? Depending on what you just did, these are going to leave behind an AOE that's going to go off with the next set of attacks. If you just spread, you've just dropped a giant circular AOE. If you just did a stack, you've dropped a donut. If you look at how these overlap, where we just spread is going to be unsafe, and where we just stacked only has room for really one safe spot. That's why stacks always go back to the same platform, and spreads are jumping between the first, the second, back to the first, and then back to the second platform. After the first one goes off, go middle, get topped up. Be aware that throughout this, there's a lot of damage, and the boss is going to cast 2 Light of Life raid wides. These hit incredibly hard. No bleed, but the damage requires significant mitigation to survive, and because you're going to be running all around and having to heal a lot, this can be a very challenging heal check. The Light of Lives will go off after the second and the fourth set of attacks. For the second set of attacks, DPS have the spreads and tank healers have the stacks, so they go to their set locations. The AOEs from the first set go off at the same time, and we drop a new set. Everybody should head middle to heal up. After the raid wide goes off, we go to our third position. DPS are going to A to spread, and tanks and healers have the third stack, so they're going back to the stack position. Once your debuff goes off, the AOEs also go off from the second set of attacks at the same time, and you drop another set, go middle to heal, and go to your final position. This time tanks and healers are spreading at B, and DPS are going to go stack back in the stack position. If you can't tell, this can be very confusing. If you accidentally go the wrong way, there's very little time to adjust. It's very easy for one person in the wrong location to wipe the group. After all of this, go back middle and heal up and mitigate for one more massive raid wide. That is assuming you've managed to get everybody full health and keep them alive throughout. While your debuffs have all fallen off, don't forget to dodge the last set of AOEs, the point blank and the donut. You can either go to the stack position or the original spread position. Both of them will have safe spots. Now that you've seen that way of solving it, I'd like to show you one that I've seen in the community that seems significantly simpler and would be how I would go about clearing this for future clears and when re-clearing. This is a lot of times referred to as Sleepo Strat, but however you've seen it, this is how this one works. When Forbidden Fruit spawns, you really don't care what happens with these fruit. We're going to do the entirety of the dodges on the front 2 platforms. Go to A, the top left platform, unless A is a bowl, in which case go to B. Either way, as soon as you see where the bowl is, you can decide where you're going for the first and third set of attacks, and where you're going for the second and fourth set of attacks. We don't care who's spread or who's stack, we're all going together. Everybody heads to the first position, making sure it's not a bowl. Inviolate Purgation gets cast. And when we get our debuffs, all we need to do is check for stacks and spreads for the first set. In this case, tanks and healers are going to spread, DPS are going to stack. While it would be lovely to stack middle like the first one, because of the donut AoE that gets dropped, we can't do that. So the stack should be all the way at the edge, just like before, and the spreads are all going to take a location around the room. Make sure that you have one of your spreads in the middle of that platform, just behind where the bird is. Everything goes off, and really this is the sign of whether or not you've succeeded or failed, because if nobody dies, if you're spread properly for this first one, you're in the clear. The AoEs when they drop, and the donut, basically overlap, so if you look, almost the entirety of Platform B is safe. So we're going to head over there and do the exact same thing over there. This makes it significantly easier to heal and to keep sense of it all because everybody's together, everybody's going to the same spot. If you forget which one you are, stack or spread, you're right next to where you need to adjust to. For the second set, the DPS are spread and the tank healers are stacked on the edge. We wait for the AOEs to go off. And done. We head middle and heal through the Light of Life that goes off right about now and head back over to the third one. This time DPS are going to spread and tank healers stack. You'll see there's actually a decent amount of room for this. It's not that tight to be able to fit all 5 groups in. Heal up and head to the other platform for the final one. This time tank healers are spread and DPS are stacked. Heal and mitigate through one last massive Light of Life raid wide, and then go back to the first platform one more time just to dodge the AoEs. And that's the easy way of dealing with Inviolate Purgation. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer to use. Now you get another Forbidden Fruit combo. This time there's only 2 fruit. They're both birds. Go to the platform with no fruit. While you're waiting, the boss is going to cast Roots of Attis and destroy the middle bridges. Check the birds. Find the bird that's not facing towards your group. The boss casts Hematheos' Glare, and we're going to get chasing AoEs. Wait for the first marker to appear about the time the bridge breaks, and start heading towards that bird I mentioned earlier, the one that's not facing you, down at C in this case. In a second, those AoEs are going to start to go off. There's 5 in total, and they chase after where everyone is. As they start chasing us, though, the bridges reappear. Start running across the bridge as soon as you can. As we're going towards the bird not facing us, we won't get hit by the bird line AoEs, and we've got room to run to the edge of the platform away from the final chasing AoEs. As those AoEs finish, the boss starts casting the first of 3 harvest mechanic. First up, Famine's Harvest. You get 8 fruit spawning. Go to the platform with 2 fruit. The fruit are going to change into 6 Minotaurs, 2 on each platform, and 2 birds. If you're on the platform with 2 fruit, you're on the platform that has the untethered Minotaurs. The 4 Minotaurs are going to tether either all the tank healers or all the DPS, and now we can deal with this as rolls. Whoever doesn't have tethers is just going to step to the back of that platform so that the baited AoEs from the non-tethered Minotaurs go towards them. The 4 players that have the tethers are going to stretch their tethers in a very particular pattern. Look at the bridge in between B and C, between the 4 tethered Minotaurs. If you're tethered to one of the Minotaurs near to that bridge, you're going to stretch your tether behind the far Minotaur, the Minotaur that's further away from that bridge. If you're tethered to the Minotaur that's far away from that bridge, you're going to go behind the Minotaur near to that bridge on the other platform. Note, all of the tethered Minotaur players are on each other's platform. None of them are on that original platform. If you have a tether, you go away. Make sure that you're not stood in any of the birds' AoEs as those baited cones from the non-tethered Minotaurs go off. Whoever's been baiting is going to have to move into a safe spot and check if you have a tether that you may have to just wiggle an inch to get out of the line AoEs from the birds. Everything goes off, and if you're positioned like I've shown you here, you're good to go. Next up is Death's Harvest. Death's Harvest is always going to spawn 5 fruit. I recommend immediately starting to position on the platform that has the bowl fruit, so in this case, the south platform. Stand between the 2 fruit that are on the bridge. This will spawn 3 bowls and 2 birds. The bowls are each going to tether entirely to either all tank healers or all DPS. The bottom bowl, the one that's on a platform, is just a standard one, it just explodes. Now, if you've pre-positioned between the 2 bowls on the bridge from this, it's fairly simple to know where to go. If you're tethered to the bowl on the left, you go towards the left platform. If you're tethered to the bowl on the right, you go towards the right platform. Here's the tank healers tethered to the left bowl, spreading about the left one, and this is roughly the shape they're going to spread that allows them to not hit each other and also not get hit by the bird's line AoE. The DPS are tethered to the right. They're going to spread like this, and M2 is doing something clever that you can try. If there's not a bird aiming down your bridge, like in this case, then you can use the bridge as extra room to be able to spread to make this even more comfy. All of the line AoEs go off at the same time as the birds, and as long as you're positioned here, you'll survive. The final combo is War's Harvest. War's Harvest will always spawn 5 fruit. My suggestion for how to make this simplest in terms of thinking it through is to immediately position between the 2 fruit on the bridge. If you start on this platform, you're going to see that we get 2 Minotaur, 2 birds, and 1 bull. All of them are the tethered variety. The bull will tether entirely to all of either tank healers or all DPS. The birds are going to tether to 2 of the other role, and the Minotaurs are going to tether to the last 2 players. Here's how you do this, assuming you've started between the 2 Minotaurs on the bridge. If you're tethered to the bull, run to the bull's platform, spread around. If you're tethered to a bird, you can't stay on the Minotaur's platform that you were just on, go to the other platform, the one with the bird. The way we do this is whoever's stretching a very long tether is just going to go straight forward. The other player can kind of go wherever they want as long as they're not hit by the other bird's AoE and they point theirs out. Finally, the Minotaurs, you're already on the right platform. You just stretch it directly opposite your Minotaur as far as you possibly can. The scariest bit about this, your tether's not going to go purple. That's okay. You're not going to get a damage down, you're not going to get a vuln up, and as long as you have a shield and standard gear, you will survive. It'll hurt, but you'll survive. This will cause all of the AoEs to look like this, and as you can see, there's really not much risk here. There's a lot of room to be able to spread everything about. There are a number of different ways to be able to deal with War's Harvest, but of all the patterns I've seen, this is the one that I find both the simplest to understand and get to the correct position consistently with, and also the simplest to resolve in terms of how far you need to be spread from each other. After that goes off, everybody should group up on the back platform to heal and mitigate through a Spark of Life. And now we get nothing but easy mechanics for the rest of the fight. Hematheos' Holy 3 means we split into our light parties. Bow of Attis always targets the front 2 platforms, which is why we're on the back. Our healer stacks go off at the same time. We position ready to dodge whichever side gets cleaved. And once you've moved onto the safe platform, that's it for mechanics. The boss is going to cast a Spark of Life raid-wide, followed by another Spark of Life raid-wide, watch that bleed damage, and finally a long cast of Light of Life, which serves as the Enrage. And that's the entirety of this fight. I really enjoyed the fight overall. I hope that you guys have found this guide useful and helped you to understand some of the mechanics that are a little bit difficult positioning-wise. Let me know in the comments section which patterns you prefer, or if there's any other additional strats for the harvest mechanics or for purgation that you find are even easier than what I've shown here. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care.